Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Essential Pedagogy. Or if you are haven't been tuning into the show, welcome. Okay. I am so excited to talk to you today because I got a lot on my mind and I have really tried to organize my thoughts. But before we get started, I want to just um, tell you a little bit about my podcast and what my goal is to do with this podcast. Uh, this is social media. I am on YouTube. Essential Pedagogy is on YouTube, and I'm trying to increase my subscribers because I have made some obligations and I need to fulfill some things. Okay. I also want to help people. That's really my core value, is to help people who just don't know things about education or the public education system in America. My hope is that as a result of you listening to this podcast, people within the profession and those that are outside of the profession grow in compassion for one another by getting inside view of what education is about, the complex structure in this American education system. So without further ado, I just want to get started. I had a awesome summer. Did some traveling, and my voice probably sounds a little different because I got a little congestion. Um, I guess getting back in school. This is our first week back with students for the 2024-2025 school year. And, I'm around a whole lot of people. I still will uh, stick to the fact that I have never seen children be sick with pneumonia in the springtime, but or what people were calling it, the flu. When COVID first came out, they called it the flu, and I was like, that's weird. We got the flu in March, it's hot outside or whatever. And last year, people had pneumonia. I mean, really, not just people, children had pneumonia and was out a week, 2 weeks from school, very weak in the hospital. Y'all, COVID is still around and it's getting people sick and it's getting, I feel like it is morphing and changing, but uh, I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is that I have eyes to notice things differently since I'm in the classroom, and COVID hit when in the middle of the school year. Yes, it's coming back in a different way. It is. So I pay attention now because I was literally ruminating about, like, how did this happen, and I didn't see it, but I did see symptoms and I did see things. I just did not think it was gonna be in America, which leads me to tell you that we saw all kinds of things in the um, news about COVID. I think there were people trying to keep COVID out of the news as much, or thinking that we were sheltered and it was not necessarily a pandemic that was going to affect America. And in a lot of cases, it hit us really, really bad. We were very stubborn and not listening to facts. I'm going to get back to this facts thing. Um, In starting this new year, this new school year, we I know I stopped after 21 years of teaching. This is my 22nd year in the classroom. uh I always I stop and I reflect on what do I want to do this year. Of course, I know I'm a science teacher. Of course, I know I have curriculum to teach. But I always am mindful that I teach people. I help mold people. And so I always want to think about what is my goal this year and what do I want to do? Do I want to help change school culture in some kind of way? Do I want to teach social and emotional topics, which I always do? What do I really, really want to do? And I want to teach children how to think for themselves, to gather some information, make a judgment of what is important to them, and then act according to what is important to them. Uh, I'm going to tell you a story. I was um, asked to help, and I'm always asked to help children in some kind of way. I was asked to help with a couple of children that went to my church, and the mother had some pressing issues, and I was just there to kind of supervise. And I get in children's Kool-Aid all the time about, and if you don't know what Kool-Aid is, it's another term for business, but I'm old, so I don't know what they call getting in my business uh, now in the young people's terms, but I am learning some young people's terms, but that's not one of them. So talking to these young people, they were middle school kids or fifth grade and older. Um, I found out a lot of things. I found out a lot of um, misconceptions that our children have now. Um, and I'm concerned. I'm concerned because um, we are not understanding, our children are not understanding the difference between reality, real stuff, real world things, and um, and TV, or um, what people present as real. So the word reality show is confusing people because we grown-ups and people who have learned how to think for themselves can easily see that a lot of these reality shows are scripted. They are edited to look certain ways, so that's not real. So I want to teach children to be thinkers. I want to inspire them to be thinkers. And there's a difference between controlling and making somebody think, um, even influencing someone to think. Because I even thought about the word influence. But when you control people, I feel like, or you attempt to control people, because no one can control anybody, right? There are a lot of people who say, keep my name out your mouth. You can't really control whether someone says your name or not, right? No matter how much you feel like you want to put these hands on them, you are not able to control someone, and you'll become very frustrated trying to control somebody. Now, you may say, well, then you can influence them. Um, I feel like there are a lot of people who have YouTube channels and I watch YouTube a lot because I'm trying to learn my craft. I'm trying to learn how to interview better. I'm trying to learn how to conduct a better podcast. I am very intimidated about editing and all that. That's why I'm so glad I have a producer and we don't really edit because it's live, but neither here nor there. That's why I try to stay pretty. Um, but when you influence someone, you are going to get backlash and misunderstood about what you intended to come across. But I feel like when you inspire someone, they take what is important to them and then they process that in their head, their heart, and then they go forward in the world and develop it in their way. So I want to inspire students. I want students to learn how to think, be inspired to think for themselves. And the reason being is I've seen a lot of students who confuse themselves with adults, yet they do not have the executive functioning as adults, and they revert back and forth from childlike thinking to the appearance of executive decision making. And they really get caught in the middle of this, and then they collapse, and then they look at you to tell them what to do. Even with the smallest things, like, okay, put your name on your paper. Now, I tend not to have a put your name on your paper battle with children, or I try not to verbally prompt children to put their names on their paper as much. I will start with a story and say, oh my gosh, now it is time to turn in our papers. But before we do, I want you to think about, how would I know your paper belongs to you? Anybody in here can tell me how I would know if your paper belongs to you, or if it belongs to Tommy, or if it belongs to Sally, or if it belongs to Ahab? How would I know that? So I feel like it takes much more of a thought process on the teacher's part to say things like this and to create a dialogue with the students about a name on the paper. Yes, we have a header. So one prompt is a nonverbal prompt, which is having a space for a name, which is you put the word name, a line, and it's a prompt for them to do it. That does not always work. Students will blast past that and try to get to the work at hand. Instead of me always telling students exactly what to do, I try to say, hey, I think I have two Benjamins in here. How would I know the difference between their papers? Instead of saying, you guys need to put your first and last name on your paper. Because I feel like we are developing students to be non-thinkers and look to other people to tell them what to do at all times, at every moment. I'm seeing that I have to tell a student every step of the way in the learning process as a seventh grader. And in years past, we did not have to do that at a certain level in school as much. Now, names, you kind of struggle with having a name on the paper, but I want students to be thinkers and think about Well, there's a deeper reason than just what my teacher wants me to do, right? Than this, right? There's a deeper reason for this. Um, what I did find out about our students and about kids in general is that they don't have many social media profiles as I think. Okay. Um, I thought these kids had social media profiles such as um, lots of Instagram, um, all these other things. Oh gosh, there's so many. Snapchat, not the younger kids anymore. Of course, they have TikTok, or sometimes they may have TikTok on their phone, but not really a profile, right? Um, they just go and they scroll all day long. Um, they have become spectators of life, which worries me. Instead of living life, they've become spectators of other people living life. That worries me. Um, Instead of being doers, they're spectators. So they wait around to see if someone else is doing, or they wait around to see if I tell them to do something. They may see that there is a screen and that they have something to do on that screen, but then they refuse to read it. And they're looking for me to read their directions on what to do for their daily question, or we call these do nows. And I'm finding myself going from group table to group table and saying, oh my gosh, I don't see any notebooks out. We had a discussion about this. What do you think you ought to be doing now? Um, the students will get up and since they got followed up on something that I told them to do the day before, they're trying to turn in a paper right then and there to me. Instead of there's a procedure in class, this is how we do this. So they don't have executive decision makings to say this is not an appropriate time to get out my seat, to do this, to do that. Um, to even after an announcement I make, we are all doing this. This is what we're doing. I believe our students are such spectators that auditory learning has kind of, they have learned to turn off whether they listen to you or not. And I have to put in some kind of action like a clap or a callback chant. My callback chant this year for getting their attention is peace. And then they say be still. And I say peace. And they say be still. And I say, okay, one more time, peace. And they say be still. And they know that means you stop what you're doing and you listen and for instruction, because I'm seeing a lot of people not doing what we've talked about we were going to do, right? So I'm having to do that much more often. I'm having to come up with a way to get them to snap or clap or jump and then listen to what I have to say, because I think they're listening sometimes. They're looking at me, they're quiet, I feel like they're paying attention. And then the next second they ask me, so what are we supposed to be doing? Guys, and our curriculum writers do not acknowledge this, because I'm teaching much more than a curriculum. We have not done much curriculum in 5 days. We have not. Because we got to teach these young people how to function. We got to teach them that you have to eat lunch every day. Like there's a time for it, or we don't eat two lunches. Like don't go to another person's lunch just because they're your friend. you know? Yeah, fishing for an answer. They won't help. Yeah, they fishing for an answer like, I need I, I'm not telling them answers. So I have to start informing my parents that they're going to be so frustrated with being in my class at times because I'm going to prompt them to think and not prompt them to just be a follower or doer just because someone tells them to do it. I want them to have reasoning and why they're doing something and learning how to prioritize because leading up to we have an election coming up and more important than the country leader, we have local leaders that we need to vote for and vote out. Um, the majority of Americans, the majority of Texans have their children in public school. They have them in ISDs, independent school districts. And even though charter schools are publicly funded, um, those schools do not have the same success as ISDs. So when we are voting, and if your child, especially if your child is in public school, especially if you work in a public school, I don't care who you are affiliated with as far as Republican or Democrat. I don't care. If you are for public schools, then you need to vote that we do not get spending cut and divided so that wealthy people can have their school paid for in private sector. We need to fight for our public schools because if you think we're overwhelmed now, think about if we had to divide the pie for government funding with private schools. Private schools now, which people elect to send their kids to because they can afford it. So now they're saying, well, we want our dollars going to our own schools when they really can afford more than what public schools are experiencing. It is really the scale is not balanced, and we are not acting as if we are Americans that we have been conditioned to believe. It is not something where you can a place where you can go and you start out not in a well-to-do place or even a third world country, and you come here and you work hard and you build a life and you're able to save money and you're able to get education, and your education can afford you to have the kind of post graduate training or degree that you need in order to take care of your family and have a great life to even send back home. It is not turning out to be this way more and more. And it's because we are not thinkers. No matter the political party, you got to see what they are for, whatever party you're voting for. What they are for and what they are against. Exactly. And once you make that decision, then you vote for that person, not because I'm affiliated with this. Then I understand that there are so many um, uh, political lines where people feel like I do not know who I want to vote for because I believe this way and I also believe this way. Well, you're going to have to prioritize. And that's another thing that we try to teach students. You're going to have to use your judgment to see whether your feelings for this is greater than your feelings for this. And if the people that you're voting for is just playing with words, or if they are really about what you are about. So if you call yourself pro-life, then you ought to be concerned about a child's life outside of that womb and their welfare outside of that womb. That means public school. That means sometimes public housing. That means sometimes helping people with food. So you can't say, I am pro-life. No, you're pro your value system. I'm saying this because I am pro people. Okay? I'm pro people. I'm pro people, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, people. Now, this may be old school thinking because I know our world is changing. Oh my gosh. Our world is changing, right? So I'm seeing that the value systems we've had in place in the past is not developing into the same value systems. But I'm going to tell you this. The value systems that we're developing into, we really need to evaluate the consequences of these value systems. We need to evaluate whether the pros and the cons, the long-term effects of these decisions we're making, and listen to somebody and their words. Because what a person says out loud is what they feel in their heart. And I'm telling you, there's been some radical um, thought tanks out there, and they will do what they say they're going to do because it's in their heart. It is imperative that we develop thinkers. It is imperative that we develop people who have the value system. It is imperative that we teach children about authority, about fairness, about looking from things from all sides in different perspectives. It is imperative that we teach them through play, integrity. Yes, we teach them through play. That's where they learn it first. But I don't believe children are getting exposed to playtime like they should. We have an all-time low in children participating in athletics because they're video gamers, or not even that, spectators on somebody else's life. They don't go outside and play. They don't understand how to play tag. They don't understand how to take turns. They don't know how to delegate responsibility within the group. I know we feel like that's taught, but I'm telling you, kids figure these things out through outdoor playing. And I don't believe they get enough of this because they should get some of this before they get to school. And when they get to school, they experience some of this, but not enough. Um, Yes, they can make a lot of money being a gamer online, but then when they go in the line to get their fast food and they get mad and have road rage, they go into jail. You know what I mean? Like you money is not the be all of everything out there. And so I understand that, hey, if I'm a gamer, I make the money, I can get myself out of jail. But it's better to even not have a record, don't you think? It's better to try to be a peaceful person. It's better to, but we are not teaching values, the integrity and things like that. We teach a lot about the careers that can lead you to making a lot of money, or that you don't have to have your traditional careers to make a lot of money. But life is not always about making money. Sometimes it's about living. I know a lot of people who make money and they're not living. So we need to have a healthy balance of living, and we need to have a healthy balance of understanding our facts and thinking for ourselves, and knowing where our true values are. If you are an educator, if you have children in public school, 90% of your energy should be towards your children, what they're doing in school, what's going on with them in their minds, and spending time with them and their concerns. You have to start thinking about how your values are aligning with your own actions as adults. And that's how I'm trying to teach my children in my classroom. So I had a son. Aw, he's not my son. I had a little boy in my class yesterday who shouted in the middle of my class, "I'm going to fail this class. Do you take notes in here?" I said, "I do. We take notes in here. We do. We write down information that's important, and we learn from them." "I'm going to fail." And I said, "Why would you say that?" "I'm going to fail because I don't take notes." And I said, "You don't have to subscribe to the self-negative talk. I'm going to try to give you information where you can understand it. And then you are going to make a decision on what you're going to do in order to be successful. Now, I can't make you do anything, but I can inspire you to think differently." And I hope, ladies and gentlemen, I've inspired you today to think a little differently. Until the next time, this is Stephanie with Essential Pedagogy.